Hello, I'm Jenny Klochko, and you're watching my podcast, the platform for news and stories for guests beyond your daily news feed. So today, my guest is Mari, the American guy who newly obtained Ukrainian citizenship. And let's listen to his story. Hi, Mari, how are you today?
I'm doing well, thank you.
So you are the commander of the fighting unit with the International Legion with the Defense Intelligence of Ukraine.
Yeah, I'm a team leader within the organization of the Defense Intelligence of Ukraine. I don't think I'd go so far as to call myself a commander necessarily, but yeah, I lead a group of guys who work in the GUR.
So how many people under your leadership?
About 20 guys strong.
Oh gosh, are they all Americans?
No, no, it's a
Well,
pretty diverse mix of guys.
would you name countries like example?
Yeah, we've got some South American guys on our team. We've got French, American, and then British people as well. Yeah, and then just some few others in there,
So it's more
and
exciting.
Ukrainian, of course.
You have Ukrainians in the International Legion.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Quite a few Ukrainians in our ranks. They're incredibly. We really need them. We couldn't do our jobs without having like Ukrainians embedded with us in the unit, despite it being the International Legion. Just Ukrainians understand the system, right? They grew up in it. That some of them have long-standing military careers, so they understand how things work. And like I might know the Western military, but I certainly don't understand all the minute details and niche things that go on in the Ukrainian military. So having someone who can speak the language and understands how to like walk the walk and talk the talk, incredibly helpful.
Do you have any translators when you go on the missions or anything, people who could assist linguistically?
Yeah, we don't have so many guys who are like dedicated translators who like that is all they do. But we have guys who work within the teams who are either fluent in Ukrainian or Russian. And so we try to always have kind of like a ratio of like, okay, there's got to be someone on the ground who can speak Ukrainian or Russian so we can communicate with our partner forces.
So you came to Ukraine in May 2022?
Yeah, that's correct.
That's exactly the time when there was my first visit after the full-scale invasion, and I remember this concentration of excitement because the Kiev is not in danger anymore. The patriotism, there's unity. What was your take and impressions when you just arrived?
It was a pretty interesting experience. I mean, I've traveled quite a bit and that before, but not like Eastern Europe. So it took a little bit for me to get adjusted. So I think when I came over at first, I did a little bit of work with like humanitarian organizations before I went to the military side of stuff. And so I helped like getting vehicles across the border and like medical supplies and stuff. So I do remember like going back and forth across the border. It was so much more bustle and being around Lviv and stuff. There was a ton of people coming in and out, so many new faces. And I remember getting to Kyiv and it was like completely empty. There's nowhere near as many people as there are now. It
Yeah.
was incredible. Yeah.
What was your original plan when you were in the US and decided to go to America? Was it just, I know you have the previous military background, but what did you decide for yourself? Just go there and see what I can do, or I go and I'll fight? What was your thinking?
I gave it some thought, and they were specifically asking for guys with certain skill sets, right? Like qualified in certain systems like javelins and whatnot, which is a qualification I hold. So I was like, okay, I can definitely like find work in Ukraine. I don't think I'll have a problem getting grabbed by a unit. I've got the skills people are looking for, so that's good. So I made some connections with people so I had someone on the Ukraine side that I knew and could talk to. And then when I got into country, I met up with those guys, and then we just started working to find jobs. Originally, I got into a position doing some training down in the Odessa and Mykolaiv area, just kind of putting a Ukrainian TDF force through like a basic training or like basic infantry skills primer before they deployed back up to the front east of Mykolaiv. But after that is directly when I joined the GUR in the summertime.
When you actually joined, was it straight away International Legion, or there was a different department of armed forces?
No, yeah, I just went straight into the International Legion with the DIU. Yeah, never went anywhere else.
Was it? Did you feel that they took care of you? Did they prepare you before the assignment? Did they give you everything you needed for the front line, or there was a bit messy all over the place at that time?
I wouldn't say that they gave us tons of like kit. And our training was pretty minimal just because that's what the time like dictated that they needed guys right then and there. And like within 3 days of my signing a contract and getting military documents, I was already traveling out to Severodonetsk. So it was a really quick moving process. So, but at that time, there were a lot of really well trained dudes moving around the country. So, guys who had a lot of prior military experience. And I think that part of being a professional soldier is that you're always working on your training, right? Like if you have downtime, if you're not doing missions, you're doing drills, you're working on skills, you're talking with the other guys and learning from them. So not having like formal training, like a block of training they put us through prior to deployment wasn't really an issue for myself or the guys I was working with, just because we understood that's how it goes sometimes. And the same kind of goes for the equipment side of it. Like I came to Ukraine entirely self-sufficient with all my military equipment and like the gear that I like and use. And I'm kind of picky about that stuff. So I did my due diligence ahead of time. I'm pretty familiar with like Arctic warfare, just due to where I was stationed. So working in the cold's not a new thing for me. So I prepared for winter, which is just another part of professional soldiering. I think that like you do think about that stuff ahead of time and you take care of your own equipment. Kind of, you don't expect you just to be given everything. I mean, I knew what I was, or thought I knew what I was getting into when I came over to Ukraine. And even then, the reality still shocked me in a lot of ways. So if I can supply myself with equipment, then that's more equipment that Ukrainians can give to Ukrainians who really need it, as opposed to this random Western dude who showed up, who's supposed to be a professional soldier, and then is like, oh, hey, can you give me all this equipment? Like, I'm just doing my part in another way there, I think.
What was shocking for you?
Oh, I think like I went to Afghanistan, right? And the war is like very present there. Like you understand, you're seeing like armed militia dudes all over the place. There's always random people with weapons, and you can hear explosions and stuff in the distance. But the scale of it when I first got to Ukraine and the consistency of that scale too, like being in Kyiv and still hearing the bombardments and stuff coming in on the city. And then at times, as like more people come back to the city, those bombardments actually just increase in frequency and volume is a pretty shocking thing. And for it to be happening in Kyiv too, it kind of really drives home the reality of this war, how big it is, the scale of it. And that's something that was quite shocking at the front too, is just like I said, I was in Afghanistan, so I certainly didn't deal with like conventional artillery or tanks shooting at me. But hey, there's a first time for everything, and so having that happen and like seeing actual like fixed wing aircraft and stuff working at the front, which is something that we're used to have on our side, the superiority, and then being able to clearly ID that like no, those aircraft dropping bombs are definitely not on our side. Like that's a pretty shocking feeling, but you get used to it too, which is in and of itself another surprising thing. Like you'd think that the morbidity of war and all these extreme kind of situations and things you see would be like always be kind of surreal, but as time goes on, it kind of loses that edge sometimes. You're just like, oh yeah, that's pretty normal to see, which is yeah, wild to think about, but not a new thing by any means.
Were there moments when you felt like, maybe it's a bit too much, maybe I should go back, it's not my war, which would be fair?
Sure. Not on the line of like this isn't my fight, because it very is like I've lost friends here, and I've become so attached to the job that like to be at this point and say, or any point recently and say, you know what, this actually isn't my thing. Like, this isn't my problem. I think I'm a bit past that. But I know I'm not Ukrainian by any means. So I think that there's going to be a level of like passion and drive that I might not be able to attain that some like native Ukrainian people can. And that's pretty understandable. But I think I do have the motivations are there that I can't walk away from it for those reasons. But absolutely, have there been times where I've just been scared out of my mind, where I'm like, man, this sucks. I'm not loving work today. Like maybe there's something else out there that is a bit more feasible. But I think if you don't have those moments, then you're like a true psychopath. I've seen the strongest mental people out here break over the weirdest things. And decide that it's like I'm done, dopa botching, I'm gonna take some time off. And so I think that it's really more of a like having those thoughts is totally fine. Everyone goes through it. It's just how you deal with them and then move on from that. That's why we've got dudes here who have lasted a really long time, and then dudes who left pretty quick.
Yeah, but you see, you mentioned Afghanistan. I talked to British Legionnaire who is still with the International Legion. You probably know, or maybe not. It's and he was saying that war in Afghanistan, in Iraq, the scale of losses is incomparable with Ukrainian. And that's one of those things which, even being professional soldier and being not at the first war, it's still something is difficult to survive and comprehend. And how do you find that aspect of this of your life now?
Oh, I think the death is something that all professional soldiers have to like come to terms with on their own, right? Like everyone deals with that different ways, but it is an absolute like massive part of our job. Like that's kind of it's always there. And so I would say that I don't know, the brain does interesting things to protect itself from trauma, right? Like the things that you see and witness that just don't shock you once you've seen it a few times. And you accept that fact that like, okay, if I'm going to do this work and I'm going to continue to do this work, I'm going to keep seeing this isn't going to be like a one-time thing. This is just how it goes. And it's absolutely difficult when you see that with like people you care about, people you work with, your friends getting hurt. But that also kind of just feeds back into the motivation for the job, right? Like, okay, maybe revenge isn't the right word for it, but it's certainly like we're gonna get ours back. Like that's something you can do something about. But yeah, I think the long-standing psychological impacts of doing this job and stuff, sure, that's probably down the road, absolutely. I talk to my girlfriend about this pretty frequently, not like frequently, but like it's a conversation we've had. And my experience is like after Afghanistan, and I saw close friends there die and was in some shitty situations, pardon my language. So, and so like I've gone through that of like, I'm not going to say that I had a great time when I came back from Afghanistan. It was super difficult. And so having gone through that process and having to learn how to like deal with those emotions and deal with the psychological impacts of like PTSD and processing what you saw over there is something I've done. So I've got like I guess those tools in the toolbox, so to speak, of like, I know what I'm going into. This is like, I don't want to say this is like round two, but I've been there, I've done that, and I've come out better for it. So I think having that in place makes it a bit easier for me to process some of the horrific stuff we see.
Do you remember your first mission or assignment after you joined International Legion? Where was it?
I was in Kramatorsk and we just got into Kramatorsk. We drove all through the night from Kyiv to get there. Got there super early in the morning, moved into the building we were staying at. And this is like the day that everyone was pulling out of Severodonetsk. So we had a group of dudes who were stationed in Lysychansk, just across the river from Severo, and they'd been doing missions going into Severodonetsk, scrapping with the Russians, and then coming out and living in Lysychansk, still in super close proximity. But so when everyone was pulling out of Severodonetsk, myself and another dude grabbed a couple pickup trucks and a trailer, and then drove out to Lysychansk and picked up all the equipment and the dudes. And then that was my first like mission, I guess, so to speak. Actual like combat operations was just shortly after that. We were working in the region. Oh, I can't even remember the name of the town, Slavyansk, near Severodonetsk. And all. Yeah, and we were working there. There was like a valley that had a river in the bottom of it, some pretty steep hills, and the Russians were on one side and we were on the other side. And that was my first taste of like actually getting shelled and stuff by the Russians. And yeah, so I would say that was my first combat mission with the Legion. Nothing too exciting, but it was a good way to get to know the guys and get a understanding of how this war is fought.
So I guess you met your brothers in arms whom you can trust with your life now, because it takes time, isn't it, until you build enough this relationship and bond.
Yeah, it does. In a lot of ways, we don't have the luxury of like knowing guys for a super long time out here, because one of the facets of the Legion is that like everybody has different time commitments to it. So like I might be interested in staying with the Legion long term. That's my goal. But other guys are like, okay, I'm going to do like a year, or I'm going to do, maybe 2 years, and then they decide they've had enough, so they move on. So it's quite a rotating cast of guys a lot of the time. But the team of dudes I'm working with now are super solid, and yeah, fantastic guys.
Did you come across Russians, like not through the shelling, but I mean, like taking them in captivity? Did you talk to them? What's your take on them and perception? Because I guess Ukrainians have different perspective.
So I haven't come in contact with any true Russian POWs that I'm aware of. We took some prisoners when we were fighting during the Kherson counteroffensive. But the prisoners we took, I'm pretty sure, were working from the Luhansk People's Republic, if I remember correctly. So I'm pretty sure they were just Ukrainian, not actual Russians who had come across to fight. So no, I don't believe I have met any Russians to talk about to them about that. Yeah.
I try to imagine your perceptions of Russians, and I guess it's for you it's more work, because with Ukrainians we have some sentiments with like with the historian, there's our culture was crushed, and there's a lot of with our identity, so it's very emotional. I get very emotional. Everyone gets very emotional from own angle, but I wonder what kind of sentiments can be for you. It's I think you don't have that something similar to Ukrainians experience.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I probably have more of that like American like Cold War attitude like towards Soviets. Like that's a bit more of what I grew up with. So definitely, and like there were a pretty large number of Russians living in the community that I grew up in America. So there were always Russians at school and stuff, and they're quite like big on isolating themselves. Like they just keep to themselves. This is Russian families, and they don't really like hang out with too many kids around them and stuff. That was my experience growing up in school. But I have met plenty of Russians living in the States as well who were just normal people. So I can't say I had any like strong animosity towards them before I came over here. But it doesn't take a lot of like looking to see the evidence out there of like, okay, there's constant military atrocities being committed on civilian population and just like war crimes committed, even between combatants, sure, but just constant war crimes. And then to see a population that like, rather than like denouncing that as like, yeah, hell yeah, that's a good way to fight, boys. Like, there's a problem with that. So but no, I can't say that I have any like personal experience dealing with too many Russian people at the front, at least like combat wise.
Oh, where are you from in the US?
The beautiful Washington State on the West Coast.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a great place. Big fan of the Pacific Northwest.
Wow, amazing. What do you miss the most about the US? You have
Uh,
such beautiful nature and your food is amazing. Must be everything.
yeah, I miss riding my mountain bike probably more than anything else. Yeah, that and I have family back in the States, obviously, who are super important to me, but I won't talk about that too much. But as far as like, yeah, the small things that you miss that you don't really think about is, yeah, mountain biking. That's a big one. And like being out in the woods out there, that was kind of like my version of hiking. So it's, yeah,
And now we're approaching this festivities season, this Halloween, and I experienced myself Halloween from in America. It's absolutely
yeah.
amazing. It's you can't compare with anything else. And then it's going to be Thanksgiving and then Christmas. So it's probably the hardest time to be away from the family.
Yeah, it's difficult. In some ways, I had a really unique upbringing. Well, probably not that unique, but like a different, non-standard upbringing that like I grew up until before I was 10, I lived in the UK in Wales. And then, yeah, my whole family is actually British.
Oh my goodness.
And then we moved, yeah, yeah. And then we moved to the Pacific Northwest. So like Thanksgiving and stuff like that was always a bit like confusing for us in our household because my parents were like, yeah, we'll like have a meal and stuff, but like it was always at school. I got the like all out like Thanksgiving, like learning about it, and then at home, my parents were like, oh, that's cool, like American stuff, right on. Um, so I was never like super into American traditions. Like Fourth of July was always an interesting one at my house. But it's I do love the holiday season. I'm a big old Christmas nerd, and just something about that time of year is great. So, but there's a lot of people do celebrate here in Ukraine nowadays. Maybe not so much with like Halloween that hasn't caught on entirely. Not like you said, not like in America. It's pretty insane in some places there. But I think like the New Year's celebrations and stuff over here are pretty fantastic. People go all out for that. So it's always a good time of year.
Yeah, so you were forgiven for your American accent within the British family.
Yeah, yeah. I had a British accent when I first moved to the US, and then I got teased so much at school, I lost that pretty quick.
Mm.
So now I just sound like a proper West Coast guy.
Oh my goodness. But your parents still speak with British accent.
Yeah, yeah, heavy British accent.
So, being in Ukraine and spending lots of time with Ukrainians, and obviously you fed Ukrainian food. I guess the Ukraine made its own magic, so it's changing you somehow. I know you started learning some Ukrainian, and
Yeah.
um, do you use it during your work, Ukrainian, or it's more for entertainment purposes, or buy a hot dog at the petrol station?
I think learning Ukrainian is essential. I don't speak enough Ukrainian for it actually to like benefit me too much at work. I will get to that point. I'm dedicated to it. And it helps me mostly in my like day-to-day life, just being able to effectively like buy groceries, ask where stuff is, or like you said, ordering food places. That's such a key one. Um, so it definitely is like the more Ukrainian you know, the higher your quality of living is going to be just because you can interact with the people around you. And yeah, people are so want to talk to you too. So like even if you try just to speak a little bit of Ukrainian and you can be garbage, you can speak the worst Ukrainian as a Westerner and they'll be like, no, yes, you're trying. Good job. Like we get it. Um, Sometimes people give you a hard time over the numbers always get me. If you don't say the numbers correctly, people will look at you like you're an absolute psychopath. If you say dva instead of saying dvi for something, they'll be like, oh no, sorry, I completely forgot all the other ways to say two except this one. Like, it's the funniest thing. But for the most part, it's overwhelmingly receptive to Westerners fumbling their way through the Ukrainian language. But
I guess your girlfriend is Ukrainian.
yeah, yes, she is.
So she's probably the best assistant with your linguistic journey.
I could not get through life without her. Yeah, it's she helps me learn so much stuff, and she helps a lot with like teaching me slang and things too. She's like, yeah, you could say that, but you sound like you're like a 70-year-old babushka. Like people say this now instead, or you sound like you're reading directly from a book, like a tourist guide to speaking Ukrainian. So like nice little bits of slang and stuff, or just like having someone that I can, be like, hey, is it, like this or that? And what's the word for egg again? Oh, yeah, it's okay. Okay. That's priceless. Yeah.
So you've got Ukrainian passport now.
Yes.
So you're a cool guy. Take me through the way. And obviously, at the end, you met the President Zelensky.
Yeah.
Go on, tell me this story.
Well, I got a award from President Zelensky, excuse me, actually, and I think about a year and a half ago, after the Kherson counteroffensive, I was given an award, a presidential citation, which so then when they opened up the applications for foreigners who've been serving with the military, the GUR put out like, hey, the lawyers are asking like, does anyone want their citizenship? And if you do, like, add your name to the list and they'll help you with the process. And depending on what state awards and certain citations you have, we may be able to help like fast track the process. So myself and a few dudes put in for it. Didn't really think anything was going to come of it anytime soon, just because it's wartime and Ukrainian paperwork can be pretty slow. And there isn't exactly like a system in place where you can just like log into a website and like check like what the status of my application is. Like, no, good luck. It's just once you put it in, fingers crossed. So we just waited, and then one day I got just the other week I got a call, and they were like, hey, yeah, go down to the passport office tonight. You got to go take the photos. I just happened to be in Kyiv, so I went and did that. And then they said, okay, you're going to go to a ceremony tomorrow. You got to be in uniform. The president's going to award you with their citizenship. So went to a pretty cool ceremony in Kyiv here. But it was good. Yeah, it was really a pretty high honor, very high honor.
Yeah, I saw the video when President was shaking your hand, and it all looked very exciting. Do you remember your emotions?
I remember being really, really cold. not to diminish the moment. It was we've been standing out there for quite some time. No, but on a more serious reply, I just was pretty shocked because it was so out of the blue. The night before, I'd just been getting dinner ready and got that phone call. And then, it was just myself and two other people who received it from the Legion from different branches of the military at that time. Just an absolutely huge honor, really. It was quite incredible. I think getting citizenship was amazing. And, it's a huge honor, like I said, but I think seeing and hearing about some of the stuff that the other people at the award ceremony had done, and some of their what acts of bravery and whatnot that they had committed during the war were amazing. Some of those people are true heroes, and all of them are true heroes, really, not just some of them. And then it always hurts a bit to see the families getting the posthumous awards for soldiers. That's a tough one. So by the end of it, because we went just at the last part, so we'd sat through that ceremony and seen all that. And it was just kind of a wash of emotions about all that stuff. So I was just like a bit like, oh, thank you, thank you, sir. And then
So with Ukrainian passports, the door to your military career is open. How does it feel?
Yeah,
One
Pretty
day you're going to
good.
be general.
Oh, I don't know about all that. I'll start small. I have I'm with the position I'm in currently, like rank and everything aside, I'm given a tremendous amount of leeway and movement within my team and the opportunity to develop my team as I see fit, as long as we are able to complete the mission that we're tasked with at the end of the day. And then we have specialized focuses within our the scope of my team. I'd say like our expertise kind of lies in other areas. So um, getting guys good at that kind of stuff is a priority too. But I don't think that the rank really changes that too much, because I've got my like goals for the team where I want like the development goals, and then yeah, I have like personal military goals for career, but they kind of just coincide. If as long as the team's doing well and the squadron benefits from that development, then I'm happy. Everyone's winning.
Interesting. So, because of your assignments, and you've probably seen different parts of Ukraine. You've seen East. You mentioned Kherson. Obviously, West. This is how you cross the country, cross the border. So, is there any particular place you like the most, or you would like to come back after the victory when it's all peaceful?
I'm a big fan of Kherson. I spent not a ton of time down there, but it's a beautiful part of the country. The weather is fantastic. My girlfriend's also super biased towards it because she's from Kherson, but I had a fantastic time when I was down there working and just like living in that environment. The countryside's beautiful there. I really like Kramatorsk too. That area is just really cool, and I've spent a ton of time out there. Um, it's quite nice. But there's a lot of places in Ukraine I haven't had an opportunity to see yet. So getting to see more of the country, I think, is a big priority for me when I get the opportunity.
Yeah. So, I guess your girlfriend explained to you about Kherson and the watermelons.
Yes, yes, the watermelons are very, very big.
Do you understand why everyone loves Kherson watermelons?
No, I know. I just understand that it's like one of the big parts of their agriculture right down there, and they grow fantastic. But I didn't know if there's any like other part to it than that.
Well, after you probably have heard about Holodomor in
Yeah.
1933. So when Ukraine, so this is the first famine artificially created by Stalin and communists. So what happened then? Because the grain was taken away, many people died, and then somehow to recover and eat anything. In Kherson, they had lots of watermelons, and they started making it's like a. I don't remember specifically the name, but basically like jelly or jam. So something very
Okay.
sugary. And it was, can you imagine, after this, so many people were starving and they get something delicious and very sweet and made of these Kherson watermelons. So this is where this huge love to Kherson's watermelons appeared, and everyone thinks it's the most delicious thing. But it's because it was the first nice thing after the famine and what people tasted. Because many families to survive they ate weeds, all of the kind of thing which just didn't taste anything near the nice or anything. So yeah.
Yeah, I see. That's interesting.
Yeah. How about your American friends when you talk to them and they probably have different perspective, and what do you tell them about the war in Ukraine, about Ukraine and life there?
Well, conveniently for me, I would say the majority of my US friends are people that I was in the service with or who are also in the service. I might have known them in high school and stuff, but they went on to do their own military service. We just didn't do it together. So they fully understand like what it's like, and like the urge and drive to be over here. Some of them are envious of the work I get to do and just some of the stuff I see. And the equipment and things we get to play with. But yeah, so I really it's quite nice to talk to them. It's a bit of a like just that nice connection with home in a lot of ways. and it's a bit of a like this, okay, cool, bunch of dudes that I can like chit chat English with. And one of the best things they do a lot of the time is they don't bombard me with questions of like what it's like here. It's just like, cool, we'll play some video games and chat about whatever is going on in their lives. But they treat me like just a regular dude, right? Which I am. At the end of the day, I just have a weird job. Um, but still very much just a regular person. So it's nice to be able to bullshit, for lack of better words, with those guys.
What's your favorite food in Ukraine? Is there something one, or are you still
Oh,
struggling with this concept because it's so different
no,
from
I
it?
love. Yeah, Ukrainian food is fantastic, though. I would say shashlyk, but I think that's a bit more Georgian, isn't it?
Well, it
It's
became so Ukrainian. It's like, Brits
yeah,
talk about curry.
yeah,
It's so yeah.
that's true.
Originally from Georgia, but it's probably the best thing. It's like barbecue, isn't it? On every
Yeah,
occasion, and especially in the East, when our TV crew goes there, and it's just you're staying in the hotel near the front line. It's for breakfast shashlik, for lunch shashlik, and for dinner shashlik.
yeah. Summertime out east is great when the shashlyk vendors are on the side of the road. You can just stop and grab some shashlyk and then just continue going. It's definitely holds a special place in my heart just because it was like when I was first figuring out like Ukrainian culture and stuff a bit more of like, oh, this is where I can go eat easily and stuff. One of the times we were out east working in the Zaporizhia region, we were staying in a little village and there weren't too many like places to eat in the town. It was like one diner that had kind of iffy hours, and then turns out that there was like a shashlik shop that you could go to and get like kvass and shashlik that was just they freshly grilled it up for you. And I ate so much shashlik during that time. I think it was a mainstay of my diet, but it was so good. And I've never gotten tired of it. So yeah,
Would it be fair to say that shashlik it's a Ukrainian way of barbecue, or how would you explain it?
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. And I'm a huge barbecue fan back in America too, so that really makes sense. But yeah, it's great.
And in Ukraine is there when people say meat, they mean pork, which is a totally
Hmm.
different thing from America or UK, where people say meat, they mean beef or maybe
Yeah,
lamb. Well, chicken is a big question, but meat is beef. But Ukrainian
yeah,
pork tastes different, doesn't it? It smells different.
yeah. It's really good in Ukraine. I ate a lot of pork back in America still, but the quality of Ukrainian pork and how they cook it and marinate it is, yeah, way better. Pork shashlik is easily superior to beef shashlik, and yeah.
So, do you dream about the life after the war, after the victory, or you leave it for later? How does it work with you? And if you do think about it, making some plans, what is something you can't wait for that moment that you start doing, or you will start having, or which is it?
Yeah, I think about like life after the war, certainly. I would say that I'm much more of like a man in the moment, like pretty present focused. I don't think too far ahead a lot of the time. My girlfriend chastises me for it all the time, just like you got to plan better. Like I plan missions and work, but in terms of like how I'll like relax and stuff, I'm atrocious at that. But I do. We have a lot of plans. My girl and I. We want to get like land, and I'd like to develop like training and like consultation services for like military stuff. But ultimately, even past the victory, I want to continue my service with the Ukrainian military. I mean, the work here when we win might be finished, but the readiness of the troops who come after, the training and development of those programs and those troops, and like setting all the infrastructure in place for a good military and for our military unit to expand and continue to grow during peacetime too, as so that it remains a significant deterrent is something that I want to be a part of because I really enjoy like the development of the work that we do now, like the training and the programs for guys. So yeah, I'd like to keep that going. Travel, I think it's a big one, like see more of the world. But at the end of the day, I think, work comes first. So I'll always be trying to do something around this field.
Well, I wish all your plans come true, all your dreams come true, and with every mission you do, you would be lucky. You get the best results you hope, and the main thing, I hope you will be always safe
Thank
and
you.
recover with any injuries or
Yeah,
any setbacks you can have. It's like the speedy recovery and soon forgetting about it.
thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time. I hope you will have a great weekend and enjoy Kiev. I feel so jealous. I miss it terribly.
It'll be here waiting for you when you get an opportunity to come visit sometime.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a lovely evening. Thank you.
Thank you. You too. Good talking with you.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you for watching. Give us a thumbs up with Mari. Let me know in the comments what do you think about his story, his adventures, and his approach. He's got Ukrainian passport and lots of plans ahead. I really hope everything will come true and he will be lucky in everything he does. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your time and my endless gratitude for all your likes, shares, subscriptions. Thank you for being part of this community. I'm Jenny Klochko. Have a great day.